In the months following the total solar eclipse, the world will plunge into a series of catastrophic events that will mark the beginning of an era of darkness and tribulation. These long-feared and prophesied occurrences will test the faith and resilience of humanity as we struggle to survive in a transformed world. The eclipse, once a celestial spectacle, will become a harbinger of the unimaginable horrors that await us in the coming months. The rise of the plagues. In the weeks following the eclipse, a series of mysterious and highly contagious diseases will emerge in various parts of the world. The first signs will appear in densely populated cities, where the sick will flood hospitals and clinics, overwhelming medical staff and resources. The plagues, initially dismissed as isolated outbreaks, will quickly spread across borders, defying quarantine efforts and leaving a trail of suffering and death in their wake. Panic will grip the global population as the realization sets in that these diseases are unlike anything humanity has faced before. The symptoms will be gruesome and varied, ranging from bleeding lesions and organ failure to neurological damage and rapid physical deterioration. Medical experts will scramble to identify the pathogens responsible, but their efforts will be hampered by the unprecedented nature of the plagues and the speed at which they mutate and adapt. As the death toll mounts, governments will impose strict lockdowns and travel restrictions in a desperate attempt to contain the spread. However, these measures will prove futile as the plagues continue to ravage communities, leaving behind a landscape of abandoned homes, empty streets, and mass graves. The psychological toll will be immense, with survivors grappling with the loss of loved ones, the constant fear of infection, and the realization that the world they once knew has been forever changed. Devastating natural disasters. As humanity battles the plagues, a series of unprecedented natural disasters will ravage the planet, compounding the already unimaginable suffering. The first signs will come in the form of subtle changes in the Earth's crust, with seismic activity increasing in frequency and intensity across the globe. Soon, massive earthquakes will strike with terrifying regularity, toppling buildings, bridges, and infrastructure, and triggering devastating tsunamis that will swallow coastal cities whole. Volcanic eruptions will follow, with long-dormant volcanoes roaring back to life and spewing ash, toxic gases, and molten lava into the atmosphere. The skies will turn an eerie shade of orange as the sun's light is obscured by the thick clouds of volcanic debris, plunging the world into a prolonged twilight. The air will become thick with the stench of sulfur and the cries of those trapped beneath the rubble of collapsed buildings. As if the earthquakes and volcanoes were not enough, megastorms will batter the planet with unrelenting fury. Hurricanes and typhoons will grow in size and intensity, fed by the rising global temperatures and the disruption of normal weather patterns. Coastal regions will be pummeled by storm surges and flash floods, while inland areas will be ravaged by tornadoes and hailstorms of unprecedented size and destructive power. The combination of natural disasters and the ongoing plagues will stretch emergency response resources to their breaking point. Rescue efforts will be hampered by the scale of the destruction and the risks posed by the still raging diseases. Survivors will be left to fend for themselves in a world turned upside down, scavenging for food, water, and shelter amidst the ruins of their once thriving communities. The global economic collapse. The global economy will crumble under the weight of the plagues and natural disasters, plunging the world into a crisis unlike any in recorded history. The first signs of the impending collapse will come in the form of supply chain disruptions, as factories, farms, and transportation networks are crippled by the loss of workers and the destruction of infrastructure. Shortages of essential goods, from food and medicine to fuel and electronics, will become commonplace, sparking panic buying and hoarding among those with the means to do so. As the shortages intensify, prices will skyrocket, and inflation will spiral out of control. Governments will attempt to intervene with price controls and rationing, but these measures will only serve to exacerbate the sense of scarcity and desperation. Black markets will thrive, with the wealthy and well-connected using their resources to secure access to the dwindling supplies of life's necessities. The financial markets will be the next to fall, as investors flee to safety in the face of the unfolding catastrophe. Stock prices will plummet, wiping out trillions of dollars in wealth and erasing the life savings of millions of ordinary citizens. Banks will fail, unable to withstand the run on deposits and the cascade of defaults on loans and mortgages. Credit will dry up and businesses will shutter their doors, unable to pay their workers or secure the raw materials they need to operate. As the economic crisis deepens, social unrest will explode across the globe. Protests and riots will erupt in cities and towns, as the desperate and the disenfranchised take to the streets to demand relief from their suffering. Governments will respond with force, deploying military and police units to quell the unrest and maintain order. However, these efforts will only serve to further inflame tensions, as the divide between the haves and the have-nots grows ever wider. The rise of false prophets. Amidst the despair and suffering of the global catastrophe, a new threat will emerge in the form of false prophets and cult leaders. These charismatic individuals will offer a message of hope and salvation to the desperate masses, promising to lead them to safety and prosperity in exchange for their unwavering devotion. At first, these figures will operate on the fringes of society, attracting small but dedicated followings among those who have lost everything and have nowhere else to turn. They will preach a message of divine intervention, claiming that the plagues and disasters are a sign of the end times, and that only those who follow their teachings will be spared the coming judgment. As their influence grows, the false prophets will become more bold and more public in their pronouncements. They will stage elaborate demonstrations of their supposed powers, performing seemingly miraculous feats of healing and prophecy that will captivate the masses. They will build sprawling compounds and communities, offering food, shelter, and security to those who pledge their loyalty and obedience. However, beneath the veneer of benevolence and spiritual enlightenment, a darker reality will emerge. The false prophets will use their influence to exert control over their followers, demanding absolute obedience and punishing those who question their authority. They will exploit the vulnerable and the desperate, extracting money, labor, and sexual favors from those who have nowhere else to turn. As their power grows, the false prophets will begin to clash with the remnants of secular authority, seeing them as a threat to their dominion. They will use their followers as a weapon, staging attacks and acts of sabotage against those who oppose them. The resulting conflict will further fracture the already fragile fabric of society, as the battle lines are drawn between those who cling to the promises of the false prophets and those who seek to maintain the last vestiges of order and reason in a world gone mad. Global conflict erupts. The tensions and conflicts that have been simmering beneath the surface will erupt into full-blown global war. The trigger will come in the form of a dispute over resources, as nations and factions vie for control over the dwindling supplies of food, water, and energy that remain. At first, the conflict will be localized, with skirmishes breaking out between neighboring countries and rival factions within nations. However, as the fighting intensifies and the stakes grow higher, the conflict will quickly escalate into a global conflagration, drawing in major powers from around the world. The nature of warfare will be transformed by the new realities of the post-eclipse world. With supply chains disrupted and infrastructure in ruins, the ability to field large mechanized armies will be greatly diminished. Instead, the fighting will be characterized by small, mobile units, often made up of hastily trained conscripts and armed with whatever weapons can be scavenged or improvised. The use of chemical, biological, and even nuclear weapons will become increasingly common as desperate nations and factions seek to gain an edge over their enemies. The resulting devastation will be unimaginable, with entire cities and regions left uninhabitable by the effects of the weapons. As the conflict drags on, the toll on civilian populations will be immense. Those who are not killed outright by the fighting will be forced to flee their homes, seeking refuge in overcrowded and undersupplied camps and shelters. Disease and starvation will run rampant as the basic necessities of life become increasingly scarce. The false prophets and their followers will see the conflict as a sign of the coming apocalypse and will redouble their efforts to gain converts and consolidate their power. They will portray themselves as the only path to salvation in a world consumed by war and chaos, and will use the fear and desperation of the masses to further their own ends. The Great Deception. A new and terrifying threat will emerge, one that will shake the very foundations of human understanding and belief. The first signs will come in the form of strange lights and patterns in the night sky, which will be dismissed by most as mere atmospheric phenomena or the effects of the ongoing conflict. However, as the sightings become more frequent and more widespread, it will become clear that something truly extraordinary is happening. Reports will begin to surface of encounters with otherworldly beings, creatures of light and energy that defy explanation or understanding. At first, these encounters will be sporadic and isolated, with only a handful of individuals claiming to have had contact with the beings. However, as the sightings increase in frequency and intensity, it will become clear that the phenomenon is not limited to a few isolated incidents, but is a global event of unprecedented scale and significance. The beings will present themselves as benevolent entities, come to offer guidance and salvation to a world in crisis. They will perform seemingly miraculous feats, healing the sick and the wounded, and offering visions of a future free from suffering and conflict. They will speak of a great cosmic plan, a destiny that humanity must embrace if it is to survive the challenges that lie ahead. Many will be swayed by the words and actions of the beings, seeing them as the fulfillment of ancient prophecies and the answer to their prayers. They will flock to the beings in droves, abandoning their former lives and beliefs in the process. The false prophets will be among the first to embrace the beings, seeing them as a validation of their own claims to divine authority. However, there will be those who will see through the deception, recognizing the beings for what they truly are, malevolent entities, intent on enslaving and destroying humanity. They will warn of the dangers of blindly following the beings, and will call for resistance against their influence. As the beings' power and influence grows, the lines will be drawn between those who embrace their message and those who reject it. The resulting conflict will be unlike anything the world has ever seen, as the very nature of reality itself is called into question. The fate of humanity will hang in the balance, as the true intentions of the beings are revealed, and the final battle for the soul of the world begins. The darkest hour. 7 months after the eclipse, the world will be plunged into its darkest hour, as the full extent of the catastrophe that has befallen humanity becomes clear. The plagues will have claimed countless lives, leaving entire cities and regions abandoned and desolate. The natural disasters will have reshaped the very face of the planet, altering coastlines, carving new canyons and valleys, and burying once great cities beneath layers of ash and debris. The global economy will have collapsed completely, leaving billions without access to the basic necessities of life. Starvation and disease will be rampant, as the remnants of humanity struggle to survive in a world that has become hostile and unforgiving. The false prophets and their followers will have become a major force in the New World Order, using their influence and resources to exert control over the desperate and the fearful. They will have established themselves as the de facto rulers of vast swaths of territory, enforcing their will through a combination of coercion, intimidation, and outright violence. Meanwhile, the otherworldly beings will have consolidated their own power, using their abilities to manipulate the very fabric of reality itself. They will have established themselves as the supreme authority in the New World Order, demanding absolute obedience and loyalty from their followers. Those who resist the beings and the false prophets will find themselves hunted and persecuted, forced to flee into hiding or risk being captured and subjected to unspeakable tortures. They will form underground resistance movements, using whatever resources and abilities they have to fight back against the forces of oppression and tyranny. As the world descends into darkness and chaos, many will lose hope, succumbing to despair and hopelessness. They will see the catastrophe as a sign of the end times, a punishment for humanity's sins, and a prelude to the final judgment. However, even in the depths of the darkest hour, there will be those who refuse to give up, who cling to the belief that hope and light can still be found, even in the midst of the greatest darkness. They will be the ones who will carry the flame of resistance forward, fighting against the odds to preserve the last remnants of humanity's dignity and freedom. The Revelation. A series of revelations will begin to emerge, shedding new light on the true nature of the catastrophe that has befallen the world. The first signs will come in the form of strange dreams and visions, experienced by people from all walks of life and all corners of the globe. At first, these experiences will be dismissed as mere hallucinations or the products of stressed and traumatized minds. However, as more and more people begin to report similar experiences, it will become clear that something truly extraordinary is happening. The dreams and visions will be filled with images of ancient civilizations, and long-forgotten knowledge, hinting at a hidden history of the world that has been suppressed and obscured for centuries. They will speak of great cycles of creation and destruction, of the rise and fall of empires, and the eternal struggle between the forces of light and darkness. As the revelations continue to unfold, it will become clear that the current catastrophe is not a random event, but rather the culmination of a long chain of cause and effect that stretches back to the very dawn of human history. The plagues, the natural disasters, the economic collapse, and the rise of the false prophets and other worldly beings will all be revealed as part of a greater pattern, a cosmic drama that has been playing out since the beginning of time. At the same time, the revelations will also point to a way forward, a path of hope and renewal that lies beyond the current darkness. They will speak of a great awakening, a transformation of human consciousness that will allow humanity to transcend its current limitations and embrace its true potential. Those who receive the revelations will be changed by the experience, imbued with a new sense of purpose and destiny. They will become the leaders of a new resistance movement, dedicated to spreading the message of hope and renewal to all who will listen. However, the forces of darkness will not sit idly by as the revelations spread. The false prophets and their otherworldly allies will see the revelations as a threat to their power and will stop at nothing to suppress and destroy those who carry the message. The stage will be set for a final confrontation between the forces of light and darkness, a battle that will determine the fate of humanity and the future of the world itself. The outcome will depend on the courage and determination of those who have received the revelations and their ability to inspire others to join them in the fight for freedom and truth. The Great Awakening, the seeds of hope and renewal that were planted by the revelations will begin to bear fruit as a great awakening sweeps across the world. The first signs will come in the form of small, isolated pockets of resistance, as people begin to reject the false prophets and their otherworldly allies and embrace the message of the revelations. At first, these pockets of resistance will be fragmented and disorganized, lacking the resources and leadership needed to mount an effective challenge to the forces of darkness. However, as more and more people begin to awaken to the truth, the resistance will grow in strength and numbers. The leaders of the resistance will be those who have been changed by the revelations, imbued with a new sense of purpose and destiny. They will work tirelessly to spread the message of hope and renewal, using every means at their disposal to reach out to those who are still trapped in the darkness. As the resistance grows, it will begin to take on a more organized and structured form. Networks of communication and support will be established, allowing the resistance to coordinate its efforts and share resources and information. Training camps will be set up, where those who have awakened can learn the skills and knowledge needed to fight back against the forces of oppression. Meanwhile, the false prophets and their otherworldly allies will begin to lose their grip on power. As more and more people reject their lies and manipulation, the beings will be revealed for what they truly are, as their true nature is exposed by the revelations and the growing resistance. The stage will be set for a final confrontation between the resistance and the forces of darkness, a battle that will determine the fate of the world. The resistance will be outnumbered and outgunned, but they will have the power of truth and the strength of their convictions on their side. In the end, it will be the courage and determination of the resistance that will turn the tide, as they inspire others to join them in the fight for freedom and justice. The false prophets and their otherworldly allies will be defeated, and the world will be set free from their tyrannical grip. The victory of the resistance will mark the beginning of a new era for humanity, one of rebuilding and renewal. The survivors will emerge from the ashes of the old world, united in their determination to create a better future for all. The revelations that sparked the Great Awakening will serve as the foundation for a new global society, one based on the principles of love, compassion, and unity. The divisions and conflicts that once plagued humanity will be replaced by a spirit of cooperation and mutual understanding. As the world begins to heal, there will be challenges and setbacks along the way. The scars left by the great catastrophe will run deep, and it will take time and effort to rebuild what was lost. But the resilience and determination of the human spirit will prove unbreakable. The leaders of the resistance will step forward to guide humanity in this new age, their wisdom and compassion serving as a beacon of hope for all. They will work to establish new institutions and systems of governance that prioritize the well-being of all people and the planet. In the years that follow, the story of the Great Awakening will be told and retold, passing into legend and inspiring generations to come. It will serve as a reminder of the power of the human spirit to overcome even the darkest of times and the most daunting of challenges. As humanity looks to the stars and begins to explore the mysteries of the universe, they will carry with them the lessons learned from the Great Catastrophe and the Great Awakening. They will be a species transformed, united in their commitment to creating a future of boundless possibility and enduring hope. And so, from the ashes of the old world, a new one will rise, a world of wonder, discovery, and infinite potential. The eclipse that once heralded an age of darkness will be remembered as the catalyst for a new dawn, a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity and the eternal power of hope and love to triumph over fear and despair. The Great Awakening will have come to pass, and with it, the promise of a brighter tomorrow for all who dare to dream of a better world.